mix of academics and industry, and that is the R of need of R actually. So we talk about CSR, we have employers on one side, and other side we have who people to conceptualize and connect with the students. So the application, creation of knowledge and then application of knowledge. Well, CSR is very something which is very close to my heart. And in fact, I recall incidents when I was talking at ISB with the Professor Ravi Chandran. And then, sir, in 2008, and then I talked that, sir, CSR, I want to explore that CSR as a source of competitive advantage on the T. And he said, can it be a source of competitive advantage? So that day, now we realize by now that shows its importance that today we are talking about that CSR as employer branding as a source of, as a route to as employer branding. So briefly, I will take this conceptually through how do we look at, say, employer branding, though this may be a little our audience can be. So what we understand simply putting that employer branding, like a branding, simple extension of the concept of branding to an organization as an employer. And this is nothing but the employer prospective and current incumbent employer, they perceive of the organization. Now it has basically it's the entirety of the employer's overall perception about the working conditions and how the employee, not only employee, but the family members and the society at large, they perceive of the organization. So broadly, and this concept basically it's an evolving concept. If we need to see, it's a continuous cultivation of these concepts as an employer branding. Because this is not a mathematical concept that this is that and exactly we will follow this. It is so widespread, see, because of changing environment, the companies also keep on tracking, keep on, say, evolving as far as how to say attract and retain the talent. And external environment, for example, technology, that is also influencing in a big way nowadays, that how the employer branding, in fact, being perceived. So it is about actually how the value proposition. So like we have product value proposition. Similarly, this is an employee proposition, value proposition. How employer say put the value proposition, why an employee should join and stay with the company with the. This is what the employer branding is all about, and definitely big role of say employer branding, that is a big source is HR practices. And we have a number of factors in that, say work-life balance and financial, non-financial incentives, culture and values, and whether the work culture is challenging or it's more of monotonous, because we hear a lot many times that young people, they leave companies not because of incentives, not because of other benefits, but they leave the company to another one because they end up having the challenge in the job. So that is also part of somehow employer branding. Now, the question is how employer branding is, which we can call that labor market perspective of employer branding. Now, if we extend this perspective to little more, say beyond that, we have a lot of non-market, I mean a non-labor market, say factors which affect the employer branding. And among them, there is a different lenses which we can use to look at employer branding. But one is which we need to focus today is CSR. So how we can use CSR lens to improve, to have a good look at, say, employer branding. And see, CSR, it is perceived in a different way still, though a lot of literature has been is available on CSR, but still there is two views still exist. And somehow we are trying to have some eclectic view on a CSR. So if you move from, say, Friedman, who proposed the shareholder, Milton Friedman's shareholder theories, and he says that business of business is doing business. Investors have put their money in, and the primary objective of a business is to earn profit. That's it. And the serving the society and all that, that is the stuff that should be with the government. And now we have evolved then to stakeholder theory when Freeman said, he said, no, this is not the shareholder only. They have put their money, that's fine. But in order to sustain in the long run, we need to take care of the all stakeholders, including employees. So be it say customer, be it employee, be it government, be it local society, all stakeholders' interests need to be balanced. That was the perspective given by Freeman, which we call as a stakeholder theory in academics. And that's why that companies have ventured into later on. It has, this was, I would say CSR is a little better word. I feel that we can say the social, corporate social behavior, because responsibility is a little hard word, though nowadays in India, that government has put it, has made it a responsibility by make it compulsory for certain type of companies to spend, say 2% of their profitability last 3 years, previous 3 years average profit on these activities. Now the coming to how we use the CSR lens to create good employer branding. So of course we can say that HR practices mediates through CSR activities, and this research also has proved it in many cases. And through cases we read the cases and we read the research paper, they also validated this concept that yes, CSR activities mediates, because if companies involved in CSR activities, there are a lot of industries. For example, if they are involved in the different CSR activities they take up, that's women empowerment, the vocational training, and say development of children, particularly that girl child. So when they develop, they invest in CSR activities in, for example, vocational training. So for example, I say one example is Wipro and say train many people from rural area or 12th class students, or say, even villages, they train them in IT skills. Many foundations now through for CSR activities, they are training them. Now, when they're training this, those people, they are not doing nothing, but they're creating business case of CSR. They are training them and they can be the prospective employees, that too not so costly employees. So now by doing this, they are not only creating employees, but they are creating good employer branding, because these employees would join them as a part of workforce and also serve the society. They're creating employment, and this they're creating not employment, but that employment will take care of their families. So the society is getting benefited at large, and this goes beyond employment. Now the product and services of companies get recognition and reputation, and hence in turn that improve their profitability. And of course, when they improve their profitability, they can improve their profitability, and the big stakeholder in ensuring profitability is an employee. And that's well said that if you want to say make your customer happy, first we need to make employees happy. Only happy employees can make the customer happy. So these are certain CSR activities companies undertake, which ultimately leads to say employer branding. And yes, these activities are taking care of inclusivity also by undertaking certain activities in healthcare. If they are putting their CSR activities into healthcare, definitely that is helping the workforce at large in better health conditions, and a healthy workforce definitely will improve the productivity of the corporate sector. And yes, they are aligning with this SDG also, as perceived by UN. But all these things fine. But the challenges which I observe in industry 4, that employer branding through CSR, particularly in presence of social media activities so fast, so dynamic. And what about say the challenge will come then we talk about gig economy, because their defining workforce is difficult. So in this kind of say fluid situation, it is yes challenging that how to look at the employer branding and use CSR as a tool to improve the employer branding. So that's my view. Thank you, Tanmay.
Thank you so very much, sir. It was very insightful, and I do believe it's an area of research for you, and ongoing research will eventually help us to understand the concept better. Right, so thank you so very much. And so next we have a very esteemed speaker from IIM Sambalpur, Ma'am Sindhi. So you can say, Professor Sindhi, are you there?
Yes, Tanmay, Dr. Tanmay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. I'm here.
Right, ma'am. So.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Tanmay, for giving me a chance to be part of this panel. And employer branding through CSR is, I think this is not a very old area to look at, but quite a novel area where we're looking into employer branding through CSR. And as Dr. Raj Kovid has already mentioned that, yes, CSR is playing an important role. And if I look at all this from an academic point of view, where the studies and the research has been conducted, which states that, yes, CSR plays an important role in employer branding. But to get a little more critical on this area, I find, when we look at employer branding, so we say it is a package of, say, functional, economic, and psychological benefits that an employee gets from the company or the organization that he is in. Now, we all understand economic because that is the first rung of the ladder. If we look at, everybody looks for a package. What kind of employment package am I getting? And you climb another rung of the ladder, and it's about the culture of the organization. And what is the environment of the organization? Because we are talking about employer branding from the perspective of retention and attracting the future employees. So so first is, what kind of a package are we giving? What kind of the culture and the environment is there in the company? And thirdly, I think it is about integrity, where we talk about CSR or ethics. Now, looking into the trends that are there, and as Ruchir Sharma, he's another analyst in this, and he says that in the coming years, ethics will be playing a big role in the companies. And if we look into those aspects, I feel, yes, CSR as a normative concept can play a role in employer branding. But again, I'm being quite critical in this, because when I talk to the students in the class, when we teach CSR, and we ask them, okay, will you join a company which is very good in CSR but gives you a lower package, or would you join a company which gives you a good package but does not do good CSR activities? So you can all imagine what is the response of the students. It'll be higher package. Now, why is that so? So somewhere, if we look at all this, somewhere the whole MBA education in this plays a major role, because when we look at MBAs, the students have to, repay their loans and the other things. So they look for a package in initial stages. But later, maybe after a few years of work, they look into culture, environment, and the ethical aspects of a company, where they would like to join a company which has good culture, has good integrity, and thinks about compassion, employee benefits, and the other things. So, this is kind of, I feel this is a journey where, where once you were out from a business school, what you like, and then slowly what you understand, and then ethics becomes important and CSR becomes important, and you look into how to gain benefits from CSR and how CSR can, CSR we know is an antecedent to the reputation of a company. Because we say, okay, Tatas have the trusteeship model, and that is an antecedent to their reputation. Similarly, CSR for ITC as well, if you look at, all their activities, even the green activities, because now they say that their hotels are the greenest hotels, hospitality sector. So if you look into how you communicate CSR and how you reach out to people makes a big difference over here. So communication in CSR, again, I feel is one of the aspects which needs to be put much emphasis if we have to really attract the employees, retain the employees, attract the employees, and also, the other stakeholders as well. So step by step, I think if it is a continuum, I think CSR, projecting CSR as just not an activity which is mandatory now in India, but also communicating CSR as an integral part of your strategy makes much of a difference. And when we say integral part of the strategy, we also understand that, through this strategy, the corporates also have to gain from it. And that is where we can think about the employer branding, because this is where, if CSR is portrayed in a way where it is integral part of the culture and strategy of an organization, it can attract your employees, it can retain the employees, it can increase the productivity and effectiveness. So one very good example that I saw during the COVID times is, during COVID, we've heard about the great resignation in US, where so many people left the organization. But some of the organizations could retain their employees just because of the culture and the flexibility that they gave to the employees. And this is where I feel, if CSR is an integral part of the corporate culture, it can lead to, employee retention, effectiveness, productivity, and the other things. So I think somewhere we have to think beyond just branding this way, but also about how to communicate our CSR activities, how that they reach not only the potential employees, but also how you, can retain your good employees. And this we are seeing, in most of the organizations now. Another challenge that I find now with CSR is, since it's been made mandatory, and we're talking about activities and involving, the employees in the CSR activities. Now, 2%, as Professor Kovid also said, 2% of your profits will be the part of CSR. Now, the big companies who can spend more, the profits are more and they can spend more, can communicate better, have number of activities, whereas the smaller companies in this case cannot, really showcase much of their activities because of the 2% thing that is there. And many others can really, play with that. So somewhere we need to see how to segregate this. So there are a number of MSMEs and the newer companies and the, the new enterprises that are coming up who cannot really spend that much in CSR activities. So do we say that CSR will not be part of the employer branding for them? So these are some of the questions that we have for research as well. So I think that's from my part, but I would like to hear from the corporate, honchos more about it.
So great insights, ma'am. Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much, ma'am. You gave a very different view, and I believe that since we have got the corporate experts here, let's hear from them. Let's hear from the horse's mouth. I believe so. I would like to invite Sharad sir to give us insights as to how CSR is happening there, because he is at the helm of affairs, and I believe that he has been instrumental in taking CSR initiatives at his organization. Sir, it's all up to you now, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tanmay. Thank you so much. And it's my pleasure to be here. I do not know if I qualify as a CSR expert. I do not think I do, but I'm still grateful that you've given me an opportunity to be here. So I've been very interested in what Professor Kovid and what Sumita ji have spoken so far. And a few things come into my mind when which have stuck in my mind. And they make a lot of sense to me, and that's how I have always functioned. So the first is Professor Kovid spoke about how CSR can be a source of competitive advantage. And I think that's a very, very important thing in today's world, especially. I think the world of Professor Milton Friedman is long over. I think I've read Friedman when I was doing my MBA in the 90s, and I think it was, we used to go by what he had to say, but I think today's world is a lot different, a lot more. The people and the employees today expect a lot more from the companies they work in. And what Sumita ji mentioned is that CSR has to be an integral part of the company strategy. And I think that's also very, very true and very, very relevant. And I can assure you, ma'am, that none of the corporates, at least none that I know, really think about the 2% rule that the government has brought in. I think that's not the key factor here at all. So let me tell you a little bit about the NIPSI Group where I work. NIPSI Group is basically a joint venture between Nippon Paint Japan and a Singaporean group. And we as an organization have always believed in uplifting people and having a strong social impact. So as an organization, we've always looked at empowering the communities where we operate. We encourage markets to drive meaningful campaigns and initiatives in our local communities. And we have a global campaign called Coloring Lives, which is a global CSR program. And in Coloring Lives, we have 3 CSR pillars, which are education, empowerment, and engagement. And our objective is to invest and kindle growth in communities facing socio-economic challenges and also work towards the UN SDGs. So this is what the company says. When I joined Nippon Paint, it was about 12 years ago. And 12 years ago, Nippon Paint, and even today, Nippon Paint is not that well known a brand in India. You know, I remember the days when, even though I was a person who was from the paint industry, I was relatively known in the paint industry. We would call people for interviews. Maybe 10 people would confirm that they will come for interviews, and only 2 would land up. This is going back to the year 2010 maybe. 10 में से 2 लोग आते थे interview देने, क्योंकि that was a market when everything was booming, the economy was booming, people were not really coming to attend interviews even with a multinational company like Nippon Paint, because we were not a known brand. So from then to now, where actually today people line up wanting to join Nippon Paint, it's not because our brand has become very powerful. But yes, as an employer brand, we indeed believe that we have become somewhat powerful. And why have we become somewhat powerful as an employer brand? Is because while an employer brand is an intangible, there are several tangible practices and behaviors that make the employer brand strong. And one of those very strong tangible practices and behaviors is how the brand behaves with its community and what is its CSR program and how does it reach out to its communities. So from day one, when we started more than a decade ago, we were very clear that our focus would be on creating depth. When we say we wanted to create depth, it meant I knew that I'm going to be in Nippon Paint and we're going to be in India for a long run. And every step that we will take would be to build our ecosystem, keeping in view the long-term impact on our company, our people, and the community that we are a part of. So we were very, very socially conscious from day one. I don't think many companies at a startup phase or even later when they're well established, I don't think they really consider this aspect of depth. For me, depth is what defines the kind of company or brand that we are and what we want to be. It establishes our roots, not in the topsoil, but much deeper. So what is this depth? When I talk about depth, when I write about depth, while the 4 P's of marketing are well known, and you guys are professors, and I'm sure marketing is something that everybody is familiar with, I think outside the academic world, the 3 P's of sustainability are still not that well known, which is about people, planet, and profit. So while we are not a social enterprise, we firmly believe that profitability in the long run is intertwined with 2 critical aspects: what we do for our people and how do we impact the planet. And the third aspect is that profitability cannot be seen in the narrow sense of the word, but must include the economic benefit for the company, community, and the country. And that's how I like to define depth. So while Nippon Paint is a Japanese company, but Nippon Paint India is a truly Indian company. And we are a company that makes sure that the economic benefits flow in India, where our business entity is rooted. Now I'm going a little bit away, I know, I'm sorry. So for me, depth comes from the triple bottom line. that defines our success, the social, economic, and environmental aspects of our business. And like many companies, we also adopted this framework to guide us on our journey and to maximize the business impact and the value that we can get. So from day one, CSR was top of our agenda. And we wanted to make sure that our employees are proud of the company they work in. And as a result of that, from the first day itself, we have been involved in working very closely with social enterprises. So I remember even before we were making profits in the company in India, we were actually spending money collaborating with social enterprises because that is the kind of employer or the kind of company we wanted to be. There's an NGO called Itasha, which is a non-profit in Delhi. So even in the first year of our operation, we were actually collaborating with them, taking care of people from the underprivileged sectors and actually employing some of them, training them and employing some of them, working with schools like Pragati Wheel School, working with NGOs like Tamanna, creating our own, focus on our painter community because we are a paint company, so we have to be very focused on our painter community. So in the times of COVID, I mean, let me just tell you, and this is something which I believe gave us so much good karma. I mean, I know this is not about good karma right now, but our employees felt so good about the company is when the first lockdown happened and the painters were walking back to their villages. I know that's a dreadful phase of our country's history, which I'm sure will get washed out in the books eventually. But one of the most painful things that I have seen is how more than 2,000 painters who were our customers in a way, working for people who were using our paint, we reached out to them at the time when they were actually walking back to their villages with nothing in their pockets, and how we actually did money transfers to them. Not only the employer contributed, but our employees also contributed. That's the kind of organization we have tried to become. So at our company, we try to ensure that our current decisions do not compromise the well-being of the future generations, whether it's from an environmental impact perspective or from a social impact perspective. So it's a strategic long-term planning exercise that we try to follow, and we try to be future ready, and we implement programs for social good regardless of whether they are required by law or not. So this 2% rule actually means nothing to us, to be honest. So this is the path we choose to follow. I think on this path, our employees have always supported us. We've had many cases of employees who have stuck with us for last 10, 12 years because they love being a part of what we call the Nippon nation, the Nippon company, the community that we call ourselves the Nippon nation community. And there are people who leave us and they come back to us because they get better money outside, but they don't feel that connected to the organization. They don't feel that proud of the organization where they have joined after leaving Nippon Paint, and they come back to us. And a lot of it is about the kind of organization we have become today. Today, Nippon Paint is looking out not only for itself, but also for people around us. I think looking out for the welfare of others is not just good for the soul, but at the end of the day, it's also good for the wallet of the company. And there are, so many ways that CSR can really help you. It helps you today in customer engagement. It helps you today in terms of employee engagement. It helps your brand to get differentiated. It helps you even in areas like innovation. And there are many reasons why people apply to companies which have a strong CSR strategy, especially today. In today's world, the younger generation that's coming in, they are already, to be honest, somewhat entitled. And this entitled generation needs to feel good. They need to feel good about what they are doing, what kind of company they're working for. And one thing which helps them to feel good is when they see that their employer is doing a lot of good work in the social sector. So I think today CSR brings a lot of benefits to the company and to the society. You can do good in the world while possibly cutting costs and make your company look absolutely fantastic. So I think it's, at the end of the day, a win-win. CSR is not charity. CSR is not, just doing something for getting good PR. I think CSR has to be a part of the integral strategy of the company, as Sumita ma'am said, and definitely today it is a source of competitive advantage, as Professor Kovid said. So I hope whatever I've said, whatever I've rambled, makes a little bit of sense. I think from my perspective, a CSR strategy shows that a company is compassionate and treats all its people, its employees, and the larger social sector well. And a business that is committed to improving the world is definitely going to attract more talent. There's, absolutely a no-brainer there. And this shows that CSR is a strong and a beautiful business strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. A really heart-touching aspect, and I believe that the work you did for painters is quite exemplary. So, thank you so much for bringing it to our knowledge. I believe that is one of the most exemplary works I have heard or seen. So now we have Mr. Gautam Saraswat. Sir, the stage is all yours. Gautam, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And I am actually feeling very honored and privileged to be a part of this group wherein everybody is so senior to me, and I have learned a lot by listening to their deliberations, and it gives me immense pleasure so that my day it has made my day. So I will not be able to do a lot of value additions, but yes, I can tell you a lot of relevant aspects and examples from whatever Professor and Mr. Sharad Malhotra, who is I am very delighted to hear his views on CSR and about the wherein we has coined the word CSR with the strategy, which is actually very right. And what Professor Kovid said, what Professor Sumita said, definitely very good. So I would like to share my screen, and I would like to share some slides wherein we can deliberate on those. So I believe my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. So basically, see, there's a difference. Earlier, there used to be a difference between an employer branding and CSR, but nowadays CSR has been actually become an important part of employer branding. Without a CSR activity, people cannot think of an employer brand, good employer brand. So that's a logical process wherein the employers actually tries to achieve one goal, to have a strong appeal so that they can have a better current employees, a better future employees. They can retain their employees. And this is actually becoming a science, the employer branding, wherein you mix it with your HR activities, and you try to retain the best of the employees and the potential employees you're trying to hire, all those people bringing in. And CSR, everybody knows that CSR is doing voluntary activities, doing very good for the society, giving it back to the society. But nowadays, this is not just related to whatever you're doing externally, but a lot of companies have started to do CSR activities for their internal employees as well. And they are not only caring about the environment, but they are doing it on a 360-degree approach, wherein they care about their employees, their everybody. So it is like the employer branding. The only thing is, while you are doing whatever you are doing, you are making your workplace a great place to work. And very rightly said by Mr. Malhotra, wherein the next generation of employees are seeking out employers who are focused on the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and revenue. That's absolutely bang on. So people are moving beyond whatever we have been thinking. Like ma'am said that, we have been a potential employees look for a revenue, potential employees look for the package. But nowadays, that is not the only thing wherein you look for. This is people have now become very aware about people, planet, and revenue. They look for all these three things, and before moving on to any new organization or staying on with the current organizations. And there is a research also wherein a lot of people, more than 60%, they choose to engage, they stay with those brands only wherein they know that the trust is there. Their companies are doing a lot of things which is beyond a transaction basis. So that is the only reason people are now sticking with the new age of people coming in, the Gen Y or Gen Z, the millennials. They are all very much aware. They trust the value of the company, what value addition the company is doing for them, for the society, and for the people. And the employer branding or CSR, whatever, they're doing it for potential employees. They're doing it for the current employees, range of employees. The consistency of the messages, because it is not a one-time activity. You will have to move on. And like we say in marketing world, marketing is just like riding at the back of a tiger, wherein once you are on, you are on. So CSR activity is also like that only. It is actually linked with a lot of marketing activities. So we also do a lot of marketing activities wherein we do a lot of CSR activities. I'll share some of the examples as well. So, but there are actually, this can also become a disadvantage for you, because if you are not doing a lot of things which you have committed, which you have been doing, this can project your organization in a bad image as well, bad shape as well, the unrealistic image, the expectations increase, and that can result in increased rates of attrition as well. So like how we use, or how the companies or the brands, the greatest brands of the world are using CSR to enhance your employer brand. They are doing it for increasing the company's public image, increasing the profit margins, improving societies, people, giving it back to the society, highlighting your values and goals, attracting a lot of new age people, and definitely the trust and transparency. So before we do a lot of employer branding or a CSR activities, what are the questions which we should be asking, or the organizations, so that it results in an effective CSR activities, like what makes us special, or what does your current employer's image look like, and we will have to address these questions before we take on the CSR activities. Else it is just a futile exercise. Doing a CSR activities, I know a lot of organizations wherein they are doing it just for the sake of, as professors and Mr. Sharad Malhotra, they rightly said that yes, for a lot of people, a lot of organization, 2% rule is not working. Actually, they are spending much more than that, because their intent is to actually do a CSR activity. But there are a lot of organizations who are just for the sake of doing that. They should be meeting the criteria, the government mandate and criteria, that yes, 2% has to be there, so that they earmark that thing. And there are a lot of malpractices also which happens due to this 2% rule as well. So maybe the government will have to take care of these aspects as well. So the people who are doing the CSR, the joining the organization, they are looking for a lot of things which an organization is doing for them, doing for the people, doing for the planet, everyone. So a lot of development, whether the company is involved in development process, the identity, the corporate culture plays a very big part. The strategy. See, the CSR has become a part of a strategy in a lot of organizations. So, and there is a famous cliche as well, wherein it says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if your culture is not right, the intent of giving it back to the society is not, if not imbibed by your people, your whole strategy goes for a toss. So this is what we need to do as a brand, as an organization. We will have to take care that yes, everybody from top to bottom thinks in the same way. So people are actually engaging their employees as well to do a lot of CSR activities. So like a lot of things are there in CSR activities wherein, it is linked to the employer branding. So some of the CSR activities which are being done by the organizations are like reducing the carbon footprints, or community volunteering, improving labor policies, fair trade, and giving it back to the society via the environment methods, helping poor strata of the people, causes for children, women's, and a lot of CSR activities are being done. And from Indian perspective, India, I would like to share this information with the audience, that India was the first country to legally mandate that corporate social responsibility, that 2% rule. And if you talk about who all, there are a lot of companies who are doing very good in this CSR aspect. So Google of the world, or Amazon's and the Microsoft, they are top CSR spenders as well, and they rank very high when it comes to CSR and employer branding. But there are a lot of Indian companies as well, like Tata's or the TCS, ITC, Infosys, Flipkart. New age startups are already actually taking the CSR and employer branding very seriously, and a lot of people are not joining the biggest of the biggest organizations because of these reasons only. I know a lot of I know some friends who have joined startups because of these employer branding and CSR activities, and they prefer to go because they said that their vision for giving it back to the society or helping the people is very much high. They are learning a lot also, and they are being engaged with a lot of these brands or these companies wherein it gives them immense pleasure from their interior of the heart. So these things values very much. And as Mr. Malhotra said also, he shared some examples from his own company. I know his company very well because we are also associated with his company on a regular level, wherein we source material from them. So, and same thing has been done in our industry as well, in our building material industry. I know in pandemic times, there were a lot of hue and cry wherein people were like, if the building material industry was one of the industry wherein it was hurt more than a lot of industries. So there everything was stopped, and the employees were actually nowhere. So their salaries were stopped. In our organization only, we did a lot of activities there to help our people, to help other people as well. We had a lot of fabricators who were actually suffering. So we started transferring their, they had something, we had a loyalty program for them as well. So we converted those loyalty program into hard cash, and we tried to give it them in their bank account directly. For our own employees, a lot of senior management people, they only came up with the idea that we should be foregoing some part or a major part of our salary so that we can help our internal members. And this we did not only for a couple of months, for more than 6 odd months. And this was one of the biggest happy moment for all of us, that we have been able to help our employees or help our vendor partners in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of building material brands also who have been doing these things, and they did it and they are still continuing. So now people are becoming more aware. So it's not only the responsibility of the brands, but the responsibility of the people who are working with those brands as well. So that is why I said that it has to be intertwined with your strategy, wherein not only the brand should be doing the CSR activities, but they should also help or invoke that emotion in their employees as well, in their team members as well, that you should also be doing this thing, and do it not for the once but for continuance. The sustainability, you will have to sustain it for a longer time. And I know I am a big proponent of this famous quote by Mr. Vineet Nair, wherein the former CEO of HCL, wherein he said one good thing, that employees first and customer second. So if you are, if your employees are actually motivated to do a lot of things, whatever you have been empowering them to do, definitely your customers are going to come to you. So first of all, you will have to take care of your employees, of your internal thing. It has been said that charity begins at home. So you will have to do it for your employees first, and then you can extend it to the external people as well. A lot of brands actually, like I prefer these brands and I follow these brands because they have been doing a lot of CSR activities, employer branding activities, wherein we might not be aware about what they have been doing, but I know I personally follow these brands of the Unilevers of the world, or a Nike, or a Lego, or a Starbucks, or a Levi's. They have been doing a lot of activities wherein they are helping not only their own employees but to the world as well. So the real competitive advantage in any business, in one word only, which is people, people, and people. And business is all about people. If you're managing people, you're doing a lot of good work. So CSR is all about doing people, helping people. So that's it from my side.
So thank you so much, Gautamji, with your insights, and again a very heart-touching issue that you gave us. Now the house is open for questions. I believe it will be a very short session. We'll be having certain questions from the audiences. So the house is open.